I'm Bridget. Sorry for my bad voice. I have tonsillitis right now, so it's really hard to talk. But we're going to get through this. So if I was doing a program to educate senior citizens on measures to reduce fractures, I would obviously want to cover ways to prevent them. But before I talked about that, I would want to explain why they are at such a high risk for fractures, and I would also want to talk about causes. So, just being a visual learner myself, I need something than just listening to a speaker. So, in my ideal world, I would want to give them some type of pamphlet, something that they could refer back to if they ever needed. So first, why are the elderly at such a risk for fractures? Well, it's partly because as people age, their calcium levels drop in their bones. Another thing is the density of bones in the elderly are a lot more fragile, which causes an increased chance of any type of trauma or fracture. Another thing that I would explain is because of the lack of calcium, the lack of density, they're also at a greater risk of different diseases like osteoporosis, bone cancer, stuff like that. So they're already not in the best shape when it comes to great bone health. But that's okay, there's ways to prevent fractures from occurring. So next, one of the biggest causes of fractures in the elderly population, as we all know, is falls. So anything that can prevent falls is something really good to explain. When someone does fall, one of the bones that is at the greatest risk of fracturing is in your leg, one of the upper part of your femur. Another thing, which it's instinct for anyone, myself, you, when you do fall, you want to brace yourself. It's human nature, but we need to explain it as best as we can, as much as we want to brace ourselves. Don't let that arm get stuck out, because then instead of having just a broken leg, now we're going to have a broken wrist with a leg, which is no good. And one thing why fractures are so bad for the elderly and why we want to avoid them altogether is if you fracture a leg, now you're at an increased risk of not being able to ambulate. There's no getting up to walk to the fridge or walk to the bathroom. Everything you're going to need assistance. And the effects of immobility are very, very, very harmful for the elderly, or anyone for that matter. And to continue about ways to prevent fractures, first off, explain how they want to avoid risky activities. No climbing ladders, no jumping from the house into the pool, no doing anything that they would do back in their 20s. Another thing to explain is that as people age, their coordination and equilibrium are already a little off, so they don't have the best balancing issues. So if they are put on a ladder and their balance is a little wacky, you're already at an increased risk for falling. With age, a lot of times we see postural hypotension. So a great thing to educate them on is if they are getting up from a chair or from their bed, do everything slowly. The slower, the better. Because you don't want them to get that dizziness and have a fall that way. Another great tip to explain is the use of handrails. They're there for a reason, whether it's on the stairs or a sidewalk or an elevator. Anything, always just hang on to that side rail. Now, if you're going downstairs or upstairs, you always want to have your feet as close together as you can. You don't want to take a big, long step. Okay, that long step increases your risk of getting off balance and therefore falling. And like we said earlier, falls are the biggest cause for fractures in the elderly. Another thing that the elderly can do is wear sunglasses when they're outside. They already have sensitivity to light, which I'm sure that all of them have experienced. So instead of going outside and kind of being blinded and having that glare in their face, it's good to wear those sunglasses. Um, Around the home, it's good to avoid any tripping hazards like rugs or computer cords or extension cords. Um, One, they already have a decrease in their visual ability, so they may not be able to see that. And two, it's a tripping hazard, so we want to get those all out the door. And lastly, the last thing that I would go over is if they are feeling unsturdy or unstable, get some type of assistance, whether they need help walking to the bathroom or to the kitchen. They can ask someone in their family. If not, they can use a cane or a walker. But rather than stumbling themselves trying to stay up, it's better to have some type of support to keep them up. And lastly, at the end, I would ask if they have any questions or ideas that they can share for what has worked well with them in the past. And that's it. I'm going to attach the document that I typed up with this module just in case I did forget anything. But there you go.